Alright, so we are going to make a lipid bilayer. For that we need a particle system, and for a particle system we need a particle. So in our case the particle will be a lipid bilayer unit. So let's model a basic representation of a lipid bilayer unit. I'll begin with a simple cube. Press Shift A, Mesh, Cube. Now I have a cube here, and subdivide this cube. Go to modifier properties and click on this drop down menu, and you can see subdivision surface modifier. Add that. Now you can see our cube got subdivided. If you increase the level of subdivision by increasing this number here, you can see that it is being subdivided further and forms a spherical structure. For now we will need only one subdivision and apply this modifier. Click on this drop down menu and click apply. Now this is our object. We need to make some modification on this. For that, go to edit mode, press tab, or you can click on this drop down menu and go to edit mode directly. Now we are in face select mode. That's why we can select faces. If we switch to vertex select mode, we can select vertex points like this. We'll select this vertex point at the bottom, and we need to bevel so that we will get a new face around that vertex point. Let me show what I mean by that. Here you can see bevel option. Click on that and click on this yellow dot and move the mouse down by holding mouse button. You can see that this is called beveling. Instead of this, if I switch to edges, I can bevel around edges. For that you have to switch to edge select mode and click an edge, and this is how you bevel an edge. For now we need to bevel only vertex point, so change to vertices and click on this yellow dot and move the mouse down by holding the mouse key. So now this is good. Now we can select these two faces separately. Earlier, before adding that bevel, you can see that if you select these two faces, both of them are connected with a point, so that we are adding a separation between these two faces by beveling. So let me switch to face select mode and select this face and hold shift and select next face as well. Now we need to extrude these faces down so that we will get hydrophobic tails of this lipid unit. So for that we need to select this extrude region option, or you can press E. E is the shortcut for extrude. Click on this yellow dot and move it down like that. And move up to this point and extrude again. Click on this yellow dot and move it down. Now we need to scale it down. Press S and move the mouse like that. Now you can see that now we have some pointiness at the end of the tail. Alright, now we are good to go. Now you can see that this shape looks very geometric. We have sharp corners and edges. We don't want that. To make it smooth, add a subdivision surface modifier again. Go to modifier properties, click on this drop down menu and add subdivision surface modifier. And you can increase this levels of subdivision to 2. Now this looks fine, and right click on this and click on shade smooth. Now we have very basic representation of a lipid molecule. You can even make the tail longer if you want. So now we need to rotate this unit so that these two tails will align on one axis, which will make it easier for us to rotate this. So simply rotate along Z axis, this blue axis, in 45 degree. Press R, Z, 45. Now you can see that it got rotated. Both tails are aligning on one axis. Now duplicate it, Shift D and select this and move it down. Select this axis and move it down like that. And now we need to rotate it along X axis in 180 degree. Press R, X, 180 and move it down again like that. And now join both of them together. Select this one, press Shift and select the next one and press Ctrl J. And now both of them will be forming a single object. Now you can see the location of the origin is here. We need that to be here at the center of the two units. Right click, set origin, origin to center of mass. Now you can see origin just shifted to the center of this object. Now it is easier for us to control this on a particle system. Move this to one side, add a plane. Plane will act as our template for the lipid bilayer. Press Shift A, go to mesh, add plane. And scale it up, press S and move the mouse like that. I will scale it along Y axis and press S, Y and move the mouse like that. And add a particle system. Go to particle properties and click on this plus icon. So by default it will add an emitter particle system. We need hair particle system. So switch to hair. Now you can see fine hair-like structures appeared on the surface of the plane. So the idea is to replace all these hair-like structures with our lipid bilayer unit. Then we have a lipid bilayer. Alright, the logic is easy and straightforward. Select this plane and here you can see a menu called render. Expand that menu. There you can see an option called render as. Change that from path to object. You have to make sure that you have selected particle properties first, then only you will be able to find these settings. Change this render as from path to object and you can see instance object. So Blender is asking which object Blender should use to replace all these hair strands. Those strands are called hair particles. So select this eyedropper tool and select on the object which you want to replace those hairs with. So in this case, this is our instance object. Now you can see beautifully all these hair particles were replaced with our lipid bilayer unit. But you can see it is lying on the surface of the plane. We need to rotate this. So select this lipid bilayer unit and we have to rotate it. Before that, select this plane. Under this instance object, there is an option called object rotation. Whenever we want to make a rotation on the object, we have to activate this so that we will get proper rotation. Select this lipid bilayer unit and go to edit mode, press tab. Now select the entire mesh, press A. Now you can see all the particles on the plane are also got selected. The idea is whatever change you make on this instance object will be replicated on the entire particle system. So you have control on the entire distribution. Now we need to rotate. Try rotating along one axis first and see how it is getting rotated here. I will try RY, rotating along Y axis, RY. Now you can see that it is getting rotated in proper direction. It is getting aligned perpendicular to the surface of the plane. So I'll type RY90. So it got rotated along Y axis in 90 degree. And you can see the particles are aligned properly. Now we have a very basic lipid bilayer, but we need to make some adjustments. First of all, I'll scale it down so that we will get better density. Press S and scale it down like that. Just like that, you have a beautiful lipid bilayer. That is the idea behind creating a lipid bilayer. Now we can make it more beautiful. Add some materials first. Select this object, click on new and change the base color from white to blue. Switch to material preview mode so that we can see the material here. And let me move this towards the lipid bilayer so that we will get better visibility. Now you can add different color for the tails and select this object, go to edit mode, press tab and you have to make sure that you are in wireframe mode. Click this icon you can see here which is called wireframe mode. Now you can see through the mesh like this. Now you need to select the entire tail region like that on both objects. To make it easy, you can go to top view, press 7 or go back to object mode and go to view, viewpoint, top. Now you are seeing from above. Now we need to move this here. The entire screen need to be moved to the top region. For that you can use this hand icon which is called move the view. Click on that and hold the mouse key and move the object and move the mouse and you can adjust the view like that. Zoom in using scroll wheel. Now select the object again and go to edit mode, press tab and click and drag select all the faces on both tails. And now we need to add new material for only the tail region. In material properties, click this plus icon again, click on new and click assign. Now we assigned material 0.002 for the tail. And you can change the base color here to different color. I'll choose yellow. Now go to object mode, press tab and change the view from wireframe mode here to material preview mode. Now you can see we have two materials on this object which is replicated on our entire particle system. How beautiful is this? You can make it more interesting by adding little bit properties on this object. You can go to material properties and change roughness if you want. And you can add a little bit of metallic property. If you increase the metallic property, you can see that the surface is getting more reflective like that. Now I'll go with this. Now we have this layer, right, which is very flat. If you want to make it more realistic, you can add some wavy appearance on the entire plane. For that, we need to subdivide the plane first. Go to edit mode, press tab. If you go to wireframe mode, you can see the plane like this. Select this plane. You can either press A and right click subdivide. You can see the plane is getting subdivided. Subdivide again, right click, subdivide. So I'll subdivide few times to get a nice subdivision like this. So the idea behind adding subdivision, we are going to add some wavy displacement on the plane. So if you have more subdivision, you will get better distribution of that displacement. Go to modifier properties, click on this drop down menu and choose displace. Now you can see our plane got displaced. Switch back to material preview mode. We need to choose a texture for displacement. So in modifier properties, you can see displace modifier. Click on this new. We added a texture. Now we need to choose which texture we want. Go to texture properties here and click on this drop down menu. There you can choose different kinds of texture. Now I'll choose clouds. Now you can see the plane got displaced. If I hide these particles, you can see it better. Let me go to particle properties and hide these particles by clicking on this button. This is what I meant by displacement. And if you go to texture properties and adjust the size, you can make the distribution however you want. I'll increase the size to make the displacement very subtle, not so much displacement. And go to modifier properties and we have to make a small change here. Now we added a particle system first, then added displacement. Add displacement first, then add particle system later. Before that, let me unhide all those particles. Go to particle properties and click on this button and go back to modifier properties. You can simply move this displacement modifier top by clicking here and hold the mouse and move to the top. Now you can see according to the displacement, the particles are also getting distributed. That is the idea. Now expand this displacement modifier and you can adjust the strength. I'll reduce the strength to 0.3. Now this looks okay. I'll increase it to 0.6, maybe 0.4. I'll go with 0.35. Yeah. Now we have very subtle wavy displacement on the lipid bilayer, which makes it more believable. Now you can make all the changes on this distribution by going to particle properties. You can increase the number here. Now it is in 1000. If I increase the number of particles to 3000, you will get more particles on the surface. If I reduce that to 500, you will get less number of particles. I'll go with 1000 itself. And you can see so much of gap here. So to fill that, you can increase the number of particles like this. Click on this. You can slide the number like that. This is okay. That's how you create a lipid bilayer. Now you can arrange your camera in any direction you want and you have a beautiful image of lipid bilayer. Let me add a light, Shift A, light, area lamp. I have an area lamp. Let me move this to the top. Switch to render preview mode here so that you can see the light. Now we have a little bit of lighting here. Increase the brightness. Go to light properties, change the power value to 3000 and move this light to the top. Increase the scale of this light so that we have more diffused light. Press S and move the mouse like that and move this to one side like this and rotate it along Y axis RY. Now we have one area lamp which is adding light on the entire surface. I'll scale it a little bit down along Y axis, press SY like that. Now this is okay. Now we need to arrange our camera. I'll add a camera, Shift A, camera, move this here. To quickly orient your camera, there is a shortcut. Press Ctrl Alt 0. Now the camera aligned in that direction that you are seeing the object. And let me go out of the camera view. You can see this is the direction camera is aligning. I will click this menu here and go to view and click on camera to view option under lock to object so that we can lock our camera. Go look through the camera again. Now if you zoom in and zoom out, you can adjust the view like that and use this hand icon to arrange the object properly. Now if you go to render and click render image, you will get this image. If you don't want any background, go to camera properties. Under film, you can see an option called transparent. Then you will not have any background for your final render. Okay, now you will have multiple questions. How we can add more colors, right? Let me duplicate this object. Let me duplicate this lipid unit. Select this, press Shift D and move this to one side and go to material properties and assume that this is our modified version of this lipid molecule. How can we add that in the lipid bilayer system, right? So if you have made some chemical modification on this lipid bilayer and you are studying effects of that, for example, you can color the modified version with different color. In material properties, select this material for the head region and click on this icon which is called new material. It will duplicate that material. When we make any change on that material, it won't affect the other one. Now you can see the material .001 turned into material .003. Now you can change the color to maybe some different color. Now we have a slightly different color for that. Now we need to create a collection and we will use that collection of object as our instance collection. Instead of distributing one single object, we will distribute a collection of objects. For that, come here and click on this button called new collection and you have a new collection and select this object, press M and choose collection 2 so that this object will move inside collection 2. Now you can see the cube, this object got transferred in under collection 2. Do that for the other one as well. Press M, collection 2. Now we have this collection here. You can double click on that and rename it lipids. Now select this lipid bilayer, go to particle properties and under render, change render as from object to collection and choose instance collection. Here click inside the box and choose lipids. How beautiful is that? Now you have a lipid bilayer with both of them. If you add more objects inside this collection, all of them will be distributed here. Assume that you are adding a protein structure. Let me add a cylinder, for example. And now you can select this lipid bilayer and go down under instance object. You can see an option called use count. Activate that and expand this menu. And there you can see an option called count. There you can change the values to adjust the ratio of both units. So cube 1, count is 1. The next lipid unit here, this one is also having same count. If I use 10 here, for example, you can see that the number of blue unit got decreased. So let me change it again back to 1. Select the first one and change that to 10. Now you can see our modified version, the pink lipid unit is less in number compared to the blue one. So now the ratio is 1:10. For every 10 normal lipid unit, you have one modified version. Accordingly, you can change the ratio here. You can even add more objects and create advanced lipid distribution systems. Assume that you have a protein, you can add that. Assume that you have sugar structures or surface receptor protein, things like that. You can add that inside this unit, and you can add that inside this collection, which will be replicated on the surface of the plane. Now here we used this lipid bilayer. Now we use this plane as our template. Let me add a UV sphere. Shift A, mesh, UV sphere. If you add a same particle system on top of this sphere, you will get a liposome. So let me make a cross section for this. Go to edit mode, press tab and switch to wireframe mode. Select this wireframe mode and Go to side view, viewpoint, right. Now you are looking at the sphere from one side. Click and drag select 1/4 of the sphere like this. Let me select these planes as well by holding shift. Now I have 1/4 of the sphere selected. Now delete that, press X, select faces. Go back to object mode, press tab and go to render preview mode. Now we have a cross section of a sphere. Add a particle system, go to particle properties, click on this plus icon and select this drop down menu and choose the particle system that we created for this lipid bilayer so that it will be applied on this sphere as well. You can see the name of this particle system is particle settings.002. Select this sphere and click on this drop down menu and choose the same particle system. Add a new particle system, click on this plus icon and here you can see a drop down menu. Plus icon, change that to hair particle system. Click on this hair and click on this drop down menu and choose particle settings.002. Now go to particles properties and click on this plus icon so that we have a new particle system on this sphere. Change that to hair and under render, change render as from path to object and choose an instance object. Click on this eyedropper tool and select on this lipid unit like that. Now you can see a liposome. To adjust the rotation of these particles, under instance object, activate object rotation. Now we have a liposome. Decrease the scale of the particle. Under render you can see scale. I'll try 0.002, 0.02. Now this is how we create a liposome. You can increase the number of units to fill the vacant area just like that. Instead of this sphere, you can choose any object you want. Alright, I hope you learned how to create a lipid bilayer using particle system. What is the idea behind particle system? Particle system is so powerful. You can create very advanced models using few settings with particle system. See you in the next tutorial.